like Beavis and Butthead shit, right? All right, it's my cheesy intro music again, and we are back with another episode of On the DELO. I am the DELO, obviously, and I have a special guest, Dr. Lauren Lattanza. Did I say it right?
Either way, Lattanza, tomato.
See, now that I was asking you that beforehand, I got all mixed up. But anyways, it's all good. She likes it either way.
I will respond to either.
Either.
Dr. L works just fine too. That's what I go by the office.
Oh, well, that's kind of easy.
Yeah.
That's Italiano?
Italiano.
And you were born Italian?
Yeah, yep. Born Italian.
Well, that's
Not
good.
Not married Italian.
Not married Italian, but born Italian. Yes. And you are married with one kid?
Yes.
Okay.
10-year-old.
A 10-year-old. Oh, very cool. I remember those days.
Yeah.
Pretty soon they'll be driving.
I know, which is horrifying.
Spending a lot of time in the shower.
I know, dating, all that. Yeah.
Yep, hormones. You know all about hormones and things that affect
all the
those.
things ahead.
Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah,
Thank you.
That should be fun. Okay, very cool. And where did you go to school as far as medical
I went
school?
to college I went to ASU for undergrad and then did a lot of prerequisites. Yeah, go Devils. And then did medical school at Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine, which is also in Tempe. When I was looking around to go to medical programs, there was only a few options. There's 7 naturopathic colleges in all of North America, Canada included. And the one that offered also acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine within the training was the only one that was in my backyard, so I stayed here locally.
Really?
Yep. So Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine, they actually just renamed as such and such a Sonoran University.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what that means.
So you basically Arizona got all your money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Keeping it local.
Very cool. And when you got out of school, where did you go to first?
Wolfson Integrative Cardiology. We are now a natural heart doctor. So I knew that I had trained with naturopathic doctors, chiropractors, internal medicine, MD, for all of my training. So I knew that I wanted to go kind of an internal medicine approach, specifically more cardiology, hormone. And that's exactly where I stayed. And I was really fortunate that Dr. Jack Wolfson, who we both know and love, took me under his wing. And
how did he find you? You just put something out on Craigslist? Or?
So he reached out to the school, and I was like, I'm getting this job. And
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we
that's...
know a lot of the same people. So he looked at my resume and was like, have you been stalking me a little bit? Because I know all of these people, well.
That speaks to the Italian in you because it's like the determination.
Oh,
so when I went to ASU and I was in marketing class, Warner Brother Records came out with this thing where they're like, hey, we're looking for so-and-so. I'm like, I'm getting this internship.
That's me. You're looking for me.
Yeah, you're looking for me. And lo and behold, I'm working for Aerosmith and Van Halen doing all these things.
Right.
So yeah,
and
same
that's exactly,
thing.
Yeah, I saw this job out. I was like, that's me.
That's great.
Yeah.
You went for it and got it.
Yep.
Awesome. And I assume Jackie interviewed you and it was all good.
Yeah.
And boom.
Totally.
Done. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much done on the spot. I was like, I just got to wait and get my license. So.
Wow. Well, very cool. So you're now in Scottsdale. NHD, Natural Heart Doctor, has a new office.
Mm-hmm.
They were off of Shea, and now off of Scottsdale Road in the
Yeah, pretty much.
The thick of it all. Yeah. But for people that are listening, because my audience is a little bit all over the place. They're business, orientated, they're family orientated, and they're also like food, hospitality orientated. Most people probably just don't even understand what a NMD or an MD or a PhD or any of this stuff is. What are kind of the differentiations on those?
Yeah, so an MD is a medical doctor. An MD, which is what I am, is a naturopathic medical doctor. So I went to a 4-year medical program. I was trained in Eastern and Western medicine. So I learned the root cause analysis approach, but also learned the pharmaceutical approach. So my goal is to utilize the minimum invasive forces necessary. But, there's a time and place for all kinds of medicine. So, hey, if you need a pharmaceutical, we're going to have to get you that. And I can do, kind of play both sides of that coin. But, again, looking for the cause of disease is where naturopathic medicine really shines, in that it's not a Band-Aid approach. So when I write a script for a pharmaceutical, we're doing this very temporarily until we can manage this by diet, lifestyle, and so on. Otherwise... Whereas the allopathic model, where an MD would traditionally just be like, hey, here's your high blood pressure medication. You're going to have to be on this forever because you have high blood pressure. Whereas I might be like, why do you have it? What's causing it in your life? Are you stressed? Are you eating a poor diet?
Yeah.
Sit down all day, every day.
So would you say that you see a lot of people that are already on a whole bunch of pills and medications, and so your goal is kind of the reverse of that, to get them off of that through more natural remedies?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So being the natural heart doctor, a lot of patients come to us and they're like, I was given, 4 or 5, oftentimes many more than that, pharmaceuticals, and they were given no other option of, how can I, change this course that I'm on?
Yeah.
How can I, stop this snowball effect that is this pharmaceutical cascade? Okay, you're given the blood pressure medication, you developed a cough from the blood pressure medication. Now you're taking a cough medication, and it just snowballs, and the list gets longer and longer, rather than kind of identifying, hey, here's how we change the things that you're doing day in and day out, so you don't have to take this pill to begin with. So these patients kind of come in kind of hopeless and aggravated by the standard medical model.
Yeah.
And they're like, is there something else I can do? And we're like, yeah, absolutely.
So what if you're just strictly a naturopath? Do you have to have a medical degree at that point because you're not prescribing medicine?
So a naturopath, there's naturopaths that are like a traditional naturopath that didn't go to a medical school.
Okay.
And so they can just be like, I don't even know if there's like an online certification or if it's like
potions for
exactly.
witches and
Some
stuff.
like witch doctor in the backwoods taught me how to mix up some
skulls
foot of
and
newt
rats and
So there's like the traditional naturopath that is not a licensed physician.
Yeah.
I had to take state boards and get a medical license and everything like that. So again, I was trained and I had to take boards on pharmaceuticals. I had to take boards on dermatology, but I also took acupuncture boards and basic medical boards. So kind of did the whole, so we can do either side.
So you're the best of both worlds, right?
I think so.
You think so, right?
Yeah.
Because in NMD, it's a tongue twister. Try and say that 10 times, people. NMD, okay, that'd be like a new rap band. They weren't really as prevalent until just recent.
Yeah, so I think that the most recent data shows that 4 out of 10 people are seeking out, so CAM is complementary and alternative medicine. Okay. So complementary meaning it can complement your pharmaceutical approach, so it's complementing. Alternative medicine being, it could be herbs, it could be homeopathy, it could be acupuncture.
Yeah.
So 4 out of 10 people are seeking out this care. That's not even alluding to the fact that there's a lot of like Dr. Google people out there that are like, what's a natural remedy for it? How can I lower my blood pressure naturally? And not even seeking out a physician to kind of coach them on all of that.
Gotcha. What population do you think nowadays is just seeing an MD and not wanting to go the natural route, or not even understanding that the natural route's a possibility?
Well, with
is it
the
older?
Insurance model, it's like, hey, I'm paying all of this money for my insurance. My business, my work covers my insurance, so I'm not going to see a doctor that doesn't take my insurance. And it's not because we're greedy or we're just bad, and we just don't want them telling us what to do.
Right.
The insurance model wants you to do the least possible. So they want to do the least testing. They want to do they don't want to do blood panels. I think we had listened to that on another podcast or whatever, and it's so interesting to hear that because most blood panels just aren't even covered. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I'll go to I'll have a new patient come in and they're like, oh, I just had my primary care just ran all of my labs.
Right.
I'm like, let's take a look.
Things.
And it's literally like a lipid panel with no information about, but they threw them on a statin. And so it's just like the minimal information, but they will still say, okay, you know what? Your cholesterol was 204. We're putting you on a statin.
Yeah.
No idea of what the cholesterol is doing. Is it high risk? What do your vessels look like? How is your heart responding? So they just are like, script. We got minimal, lab information, but we're going to still give you this script.
So maybe in essence, that's a good thing for you because you're really able to get the clientele that you want. You want the people that want to come in, either get off stuff or never go on stuff, really look, dial into their blood analysis and that sort of thing, as opposed to, hey, Bill over here is coming over, but he doesn't want to pay you what your cost is because his insurance won't cover it. Well, that's fine,
Yeah, because they're not going to be the people that take everything kind of into their understanding of, hey, I'm the one in charge here. I chose this physician. I have to choose what goes into my mouth. It's kind of just sets them apart from the get-go.
Yeah.
I'm choosing to pay out of pocket. I know that by that I'm going to get a lot better results because I'm going to have a lot more information in front of me. Knowledge is power. So we have to get this whole slew of information so that we can be like, look, this is where you're at. You can do X, Y, and Z to dial that in.
Yeah.
And we don't have to go to the pharmaceutical route. We don't have to go the insurance route. And so it kind of is us, for lack of a better term, kind of flying under the radar because we're not being told what to do.
Is an expense all relative too?
Absolutely.
Like
yeah,
if you're
what's
paying
the long term,
right?
And there was a study, Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, that did a study on I think it was mostly a cholesterol study, and they did it was just like diet and lifestyle interventions. So again, not spending a bunch of money on supplements,
right.
not, kind of just diet and lifestyle.
Yeah.
And they found a $16,000 per patient savings because that patient would have wound up down the line requiring angioplasty and other procedures to open up these arteries. But hey, if we dial in your diet and lifestyle, you don't have to have that down the line.
And you brought up something really interesting there, because I think that there's another like an opposite proponent of people that go see people and they're over supplemented. It's like they just get sold the world. And so you think you're going in doing all this healthy stuff, and then you're walking out with like 10 bags of supplements. I've been guilty of it because I feel like, oh, everything's going to work, but you just end up pissing half of it out, or you're
Absolutely.
not being told the right things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I always tell patients, like, look, I will give you, and that's why we test and we don't guess, right? So we test to see what is required, what's necessary, what your body is calling for, rather than just like, oh, this is good for this, and this is good for this, and this is good for this. I don't want any of my patients choking down 75 capsules 3 times a day. Like, anything that gets into your body is still something that your digestive tract has to process. Like,
right.
we don't want to burden your liver by attempting to bring down your blood pressure.
Yeah.
Because that's it's all relative, it's all connected, so it's not good in the long run.
What are the top 2, just if you have to guess off the top of your head, what are the top 2 pharmaceuticals that you see people, are on and that you're trying to get them off?
In my field, I see a lot of statin drugs, so cholesterol-lowering drugs,
right.
and blood pressure-lowering drugs. So typically it's Lipitor and metoprolol.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So just a lot of heart health.
A lot of heart health.
Obviously, natural heart doctor,
right.
because that's...
Right. And, and even beyond that, like I see a lot of patients come into me with an improperly managed thyroid. So a lot of levothyroxine, which is just T4. But then if their primary care is not running a full thyroid panel, their thyroid is still not operating properly. So they need a balance of T4 and T3, which they're not getting from synthetic T4.
Yeah. Do you give them pig thyroid?
Pig, or I compound T3 and T4 from a compounding pharmacy. So it depends on the person. If they're like a Hashimoto's autoimmune patient, then their autoimmune will kind of dive at that pig thyroid as well. So it's not going to be managed well. Okay.
So let's talk about somebody in their 20s. Is there even a need for them to go to the doctor?
Totally. I mean, because you do have some level of genetic what's handed to you, right? So it's a good place to kind of get a genetic understanding of, you know what, my grandfather and then my father, we all have, our cholesterol is up in the 300-400s. So we do have to kind of do some prevention on that. So we want to make sure that it's not going to become oxidized or small, dense particles, and it's not going to contribute to atherosclerosis. So yes, we do want to see what your hormones are like. So getting a baseline understanding.
So, and that'd probably be about the same for the 30s, but you would probably have to say, come your 40s and 50s, it's like the game just changes. I mean, I know it has for me, and if I hadn't kept track of everything, I literally have charts of just all my, I think I do blood panels 2 to 3 times a year, and so it's like a game for me. I'm like, oh, I'm good here, I'm not, and I would say, for men and possibly women in some realm, I just don't deal with that as much, except for what I go through with my wife. I mean, women more of like the menopause factor, and then men, it's kind of like losing, testosterone and all that. That's a lot of what you see too.
Absolutely. And even if it's like you're dealt a genetic hand that's beautiful, you have no genetic things that you really are working uphill against, we still find environmental factors. So, drinking out of this glass water bottle here, plastic water bottles, plasticizers, all over the environment, different chemicals in our environment come into our bodies in our teens, 20s, 30s, altering hormone function. So that's why there's this dramatic rise in polycystic ovarian syndrome, infertility in men and women. Yeah. So we kind of, you know what? Well, after I moved, or after I took this career choice, or whatever it is, there's all these alterations, and we have to figure out where these are coming from.
For sure. Kimberly Delorenzo, did you hear that? Here, cheers me real quick. You hear that? That's the sound of glass. Yeah, she gets on me for buying glass because, it's more expensive. But because of that, her man is going to be full of vigor.
Exactly.
Right?
You're not screwing up your testosterone for the long run.
So everybody's different. Wouldn't you agree that everybody's similar, but everybody's different. It's kind of like looking into a science project when you get like a new client. You're like, okay,
totally.
where am I at? And tell me a little bit about that process and how you feel when you have an intake of somebody new.
Right. So that's where I think that naturopathic medicine really shines, that it's a total individualized approach. It's not, hey, you have atrial fibrillation, so you're going to get this slew of pharmaceuticals, you're going to get 3 drugs, and you're going to get likely down the road a procedure. There's no, other intake. There's nothing that makes you different from man, woman, age. It's all just the same. When a woman comes in or a man comes in, it's like we ask a whole slew of questions. My intake is 75 minutes long of me just hammering with questions.
Yeah.
When did you get this? When did you first go into AFib? What else was going on in your life? Oh, I was going through a divorce. It was really stressful. Or I moved into a new home. Okay, well, does that home have some water damage going on? Probably have some mold attributing to that.
Yeah.
Weight changes, again, environmental chemical changes. So any number of things. So we do a really thorough, in-depth intake so we can better understand who that person is, and then we do thorough, in-depth lab assessment. So, we have this subjective of who you are, how your digestion is, and how your energy is, and, all of these different things. But then we see in black and white, again, the knowledge is power. So we get, you said, like, it's kind of like a game. And so the labs that I order often have, like, green, yellow, and red. And so it's like, well, there's all this red. It's like, okay, I will see you in 6 months. Let's make sure that all goes to yellow and then to green, and we can optimize that. So it's just a fine-tuning rather than a blanket approach of throwing whatever drug it is. So kind of meeting the person where they're at and taking them along. We work with health coaches as well, so there's a lot of layers of support for that person.
Right.
Just being like, do this, see you in 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. And I can tell just by your demeanor and your passion for it, like every person that you have is very like special to you, and before you see them, you probably dig into it, and you're like, God, I wonder where they're at, and it's almost like treating it like yourself.
Yeah,
in essence.
It's like a little mystery. Like I'm totally doing detective work because I'm like, why do you have this?
Right.
Like, because there is a reason.
Yeah.
It's not just because.
You're looking shit up all the time.
Your heart doesn't want to do this.
Right.
So there's a reason.
And it's interesting because I think you'll totally agree to this. Like, the way that we lived back in the 40s, 50s, 60s is completely different than the way that we live now, and the factors of pollution, stress. I mean, all these things are completely different. So therefore, the answers back then can't be the answers now, and the answers are always ever changing. Based on environment, and so getting into stress. When you get into direct stress and indirect stress, like how big of a factor is that on overall health?
Oh, it's huge, and that's what I always tell my patients is that the issues are in the tissues.
Yeah.
So if you want to just sweep something under the rug and pretend like...
That's great.
And it's so true because it's like, for example, I had this new patient last week. He's 72 years old, comes in with Crohn's disease. Really a debilitating gastrointestinal disorder.
Yeah.
He was diagnosed originally at age 12. So... okay, what else happened at age 12? My parents went through a really tough divorce. He breaks down into tears. I'm like, okay, so you just swept that under the rug, and it's, I'm sick to my stomach. My stomach's in knots. All of that stress that you're dealing with, you're just kind of suppressing it. It manifests as disease. So again, the issues are in the tissues. You don't deal with that outwardly. You don't, talk to your tribe of people. You don't get some therapy on board. If you don't have a good tribe, if you have a crappy job and you're just like aggravated and irritated all the time, you're going to have some manifestation of it. So it will come back up.
Yeah, I guess
deal with it.
I guess you're a therapist too at times.
Totally.
Yeah, I get it. Well, Jeremy Scott, who we both know and been on his podcast, same thing. It's like if you're a trainer, you're a therapist at times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have to be that motivating factor, and you have to be those listening ears. And we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth.
That's crazy. Well, let's talk about. I know that the Wolf has his own coffee, cardio coffee, right? I think I did some commercials with him regards that.
On our site, yeah.
But, coffee is something that I think everybody can either, people that love coffee just love coffee. So I wanted to get from you, a doctor, like the benefits of coffee so people could hear.
Yeah, so I think that it's a matter of actually like a major contributing source of plant-based antioxidants is coffee in the American diet. So there's all these beneficial factors of the coffee bean. We, just like anything else, can manage to screw that up. So if we, spray coffee plants with pesticides and herbicides. Those are poisons that are meant to kill a living organism.
Right.
We are a living organism,
Yes.
so we're going to have some effect of that. So make sure you're drinking organic coffee that's not sprayed with pesticides and herbicides. But then also, the packing and the kind of delivery of coffee beans, they spray it, wash it down, weigh it wet so that they get more yield. When that gets to the end consumer, that's often a moldy product. So that we're drinking down this moldy coffee, it gets into our body, and it's now producing mycotoxins, which is a huge problem that I think that a lot of people really just assume, oh, no, it's, we don't live in a sterile world, which we don't, but we can only take so much.
Right.
So make sure you're getting a mold-tested coffee that's organic, and that's why we have cardiology coffee, because it's solving the problem, right?
Yeah.
We love coffee. Myself and Dr. Wolfson, doctors just love to drink coffee. We got to help, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
And you don't have to stop drinking it. It's just, what are you drinking?
Right. Just don't drink mold.
Don't drink mold. Don't drink poison.
We know what an issue mold can be. So tell me how fucked up we are as a society at this point because of these endocrine disruptors. And tell me a little bit about tell the audience a little bit about what these are and how we can maybe subdue some of that.
So EDCs, endocrine disrupting chemicals.
Thank you.
AKA hormone disrupting chemicals. So you can think of things like plasticizers, fragrances, synthetic, like flame retardants if you buy new furniture, some clothing. Any amount of these different chemicals that get into our body, either absorbed through our skin, we inhale them. So like candles, for example, there are some less toxic candles, but there are more toxic ones as well. So these things get into our body. They look chemically similar to a hormone. So, for example, estrogen. Estrogen has a certain shape. If that goes to, it's like a key in a lock. If that key looks similar to whatever other thing that's going to bind that, so say this fragrance gets into our body, it looks a lot like estrogen, it's going to bind that as well. So then we get a lot of the estrogen that's coming into our body is actually a much more potent form.
Okay.
So it's going to mimic it, but it's going to be more potent. So it's disrupting the normal endocrine function that's being built and manufactured in our body, but it's also downstream effect. What happens when that's all bound up? Isn't
that crazy? How all this stuff just has come to and it just affects the body, and we never had any of this as I don't know, even decades ago.
Really,
probably.
I mean, the surge of, like I said, infertility and the age at which little girls are starting their menstrual cycles now, it's kind of horrifying.
Dracar, remember Dracar, the cologne at the mall? That's what in high school we just put that stuff all over us and be like, oh, smell me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. What does eating clean mean to you? And if you were to talk to people about that.
So it means to me like avoiding processed foods. If you can look at it, you know what is in it. You can't. And like I always say, bread was the original processed food, right? So you take a whole food, you take wheat, and then you mill it down, and then you add some different ingredients, you process it to a different, variety of levels, and then you have this end product. That's a processed food, but then we have this next layer of ultra-processed foods, which is like, the example I was using for those kids the other day, these high school kids, I'm like, okay, so an Oreo is a vegan food. It's a cream-filled cookie, but it's vegan. So what the heck is this cream-filled?
Right.
Like, it's this mystery food. So many layers of processing, and it's totally coming from a factory and probably some labs involved.
Yeah.
So fully removed from a whole food. And that's another thing that I was telling them was, any 10% increase in ultra-processed foods in the diet leads to an increase of 14% mortality. So death by any cause.
Because your body can't process it.
Your body has no idea what it is.
There's a bunch of chemicals and other things in there that you don't know.
Yeah.
And so, how can somebody, besides, because I really practice this, if I don't know what the actual object is that I'm putting in my mouth, like an apple or a steak or a potato, I just, right now, I don't do it. And I've never felt better in my life.
Exactly.
But I was totally into the tricks of, oh, those keto treats over there look pretty damn good. They got to be good for you because it's going to fit my macros or be keto. So how do people not fall into that trap? I guess you just got to make a choice not to do it.
You got to make a choice. And that's what I always tell people, like, look through an anthropologic lens. Like, we can't outbeat history. We are, this brilliant human species. How did we get here?
Yeah.
By eating whole foods. We didn't have foods coming out of labs. We had foods coming out of the earth.
Right.
So if it's not, a fish, a steak, a potato, like, you can, if it's coming from the earth, your body's going to know what to do with it.
Pretty solid. Yeah, it's such the best dieting advice because there's so many diet plans out there, and it's like, dude, just eat food.
Keep it simple.
Yeah,
eat
totally.
Real food.
Yeah, and I want to get into a little bit of just your daily routines. So are you a faster in the morning and eat a couple times a day, or?
Yeah, I typically wake up. I drink coffee black.
Yeah, same here.
Makes it a lot easier.
Totally.
Because then somebody's just going to screw it up and put too much of this.
Right.
Start with a big glass of water. I mean, you've got to rehydrate your body, rehydrate your brain. Your brain literally dehydrates overnight. So start with a big glass of water, get out in the sun for 10 minutes. So ideally, you're not drinking your coffee right within the first 2 hours of waking, so you keep your cortisol pattern ideal.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
It doesn't really happen for me either, but ideally. Water, sunshine, coffee, fast. Sometimes I'll, have something at work, maybe just have some protein or something. Ideally, an actual meat protein. I'll bring a grass-fed beef patty or something to work. And then, have a full meal.
And when do you exercise?
Morning.
In the morning?
Yeah.
So you get all that done.
In the morning. Yeah, and it doesn't always pan out with my energy levels.
Yeah.
But that's the only time of the day I'm going to get it done.
100%, yeah. And it doesn't really matter, as I tell people, it doesn't matter what it is that you do. Just move and do something. And even during the course of the day, get up out of your chair if you're sitting or, I think you saw in my office, I don't even have a chair in there. I mean, I'm standing for the podcast. I feel better standing.
Absolutely.
And then at 8 o'clock, I'm down. I'm out for the count. Laser.
Yeah. I mean, and that's again, looking through an anthropologic lens, go to bed with the sun, rise with the sun.
Yep.
And if you're, here we can't really do it all the time, but ideally I like to work out outside.
Yeah.
Which I know you're a fan of as well. So it's kind of doubling down with sunshine exposure, moving your body.
Totally. Yeah. My workout was in the park this morning. It was
lovely.
Nice.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite conventions that you go to that are not Star Trek, but but medical conventions that you go to, like say the biohacking conference? I don't know if you've been to that or you enjoy that, or but what are some of the ones that maybe people could also go to and partake in?
Yeah. I think Dr. Wilson just spoke at the biohacking conference. I think that there's a lot there. I think biohacking, it's if you're not doing the foundational pieces, don't start working into biohacking.
Yeah.
So if you're not sleeping right, eating right, moving your body, start with foundational things before you are I do red light all the time, but I still go through, McDonald's. It's well, all right. So let's start with the foundational pieces. I go to Cellcore Eco every year, which is really awesome. It's really a lot about toxin avoidance. So be it, chemical toxins, mold toxins, parasite discussions. So kind of these things that people are oh no, we're in the U.S. We don't have parasites. It's
those poop tests.
Parasites don't see international borders.
No.
So.
Yeah, I had all sorts of parasites after I did my poop test. It was crazy.
Oh, I mean, it's we all have pets and we deworm our pets. Why do we think that we can, let them lick us and walk on the same ground as us and we don't have parasites?
Yeah, you're right. Well, okay, that goes into my next question. How important is a dog to somebody's health?
Oh my gosh, I can't tell you. So whenever I get a mental, emotional, that's really central to this patient's case, I'm okay, so what is it that brings you joy? What do you live for? Cats and dogs, usually dogs, but cats and dogs. It's well, they need me. It's yes, okay, they do need you.
Yeah,
but you obviously need them. It's how much joy. I mean, my husband would be this is nauseating, but my dog brings me so much joy.
Same here.
I just love him.
Yeah, my babies.
Yeah.
Do you have dog day at the office or?
We used to. I don't know that I'm allowed to bring your dog into the new office.
Right. So the new office, you guys have IV treatments. You have all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah, we've got IV. I do acupuncture. We actually got a Flowpresso, which is a full body compression device. So
cool.
So you've had
I gotta go and do that.
the lower body compression.
Yeah.
Well, this is literally full body.
Oh, wow.
And it's amazing. And it's a 30-40 minute session.
Like a Stay Puff? You're just
and it has infrared as well. So it's pretty awesome. So we do acupuncture, IV, so really kind of encompassing like whole body treatment.
Love it.
And then of course we have the health coaches, which are awesome, very, very knowledgeable. We've got so many resources online in terms of like how to make your diet better and your lifestyle. And
you
your
have
sleep
supplements, you have
patterns better.
suppositories,
Oh, we've
you
got
have coffee.
a huge array of supplements in office. So it's really kind of cool. We do a lot of in-office education series as well.
Yeah.
So I've done, the endocrine disrupting chemical discussion. We get a cup of cardiology coffee and listen to me rant for 15, 20 minutes in the morning before you go to work.
That's all good though. You're passionate about it.
Yeah.
No, I love it.
Sharing information.
No, this has been totally cool. So I have a couple of quick fire questions if you're up for it.
Totally.
Okay. All right. The Red Hot Chili Peppers or Travis Tritt?
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay. Steak or chicken?
Steak.
Sugar or spice?
Spice.
Would you rather hike the Nile River or the Iraqi desert?
Nile River. We have enough desert hiking.
Right. Netflix or a movie theater?
Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like to stay home.
Yeah.
And then the biggest question I have for you, Bigfoot or aliens?
Ooh, aliens.
Nice. All right, perfect. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate it. I know you gave you gave some great left and right hooks. Hopefully, it's some awesome information people can pick up real quick on their way to work or on their way home. And where can everybody find you, social media wise, and all that?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Lattanza, DRLATTANZA. Also, we have our practice website, which is Natural Heart Doctor. We're now on TikTok, I think, as well. So Instagram, TikTok, and then our website, like I said, naturalheartdoctor.com. So much information there as well. You can learn a lot about our practice, what we offer, but also just so much valuable information in terms of blogs and resources.
I'll put that all in show notes. And I do have to say, because I follow you and your Instagram and all that is awesome. It's fun. It's lighthearted. It's like not everybody has to be, kind of like I bring some fun into insurance, supposedly. Like not everybody has to be an old, wretched old, doctor and,
I know.
No
I don't
fun.
want it to be rigid. I just want to kind of share some information and tips that are utilizable on a daily basis.
That's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Well, again, thank you for coming on, and thank you everybody for listening. This is sponsored by myself because I'm cool like that, and I really appreciate everybody listening. Please share it if you get a chance, and give us a 5-star, and enjoy your day. And again, that's it. That's all I got.
Thanks for having
all right,
me.
DELO out.